You are now about to witness the awesome, crushing might of, wait for it, KNUCKLE! Woo! Welcome, my friends, to a show that seemingly, apparently, probably never ends. Not until 2:51. I am your host, Eugene S. Robinson. Or like P.D. Welsh says, while he's threatening my life, Eugene S. With the S standing for stop. This is round number 275. The UFC 209 preview. And a deep look into the mist that's been working, the tendrils of fog that have been working their way around the peripheries or into the very heart of MMA this past week. I'm not stepping on If I Did or Care Don't Care preview, but you'll see. After Bob Riley, Stigmata, Calling of the Just. I'm on my way back nowhere. Could not see so clear. I'm taking a real good look at you. I'm taking a real good look at your face. Being paid back in full, always nothing. All right. That's it. Enough with the music. Welcome, my friends. This is number 275. I'm your host, Eugene S. Robinson. Hitler, apocryphal or not, went to a party that they were having at Berchtesgaden. And unbeknownst to him, one of his underlings tried to curry favor with the Führer, invited some woman who was the exemplar of Aryan beauty, like Brunhilde, apparently. I wasn't there. Apparently, tall, big titties. I guess this was what he favored, presumably, even though Gelly Rabel, his cousin that he had the affair with, who then suspiciously killed herself, was nothing of the sort. But he shows up and he's transfixed. Hitler is who we're speaking about. Hitler is transfixed by this woman. And he proceeds in junior high school fashion, though he was at this point the undisputed leader of Germany, he proceeds to mince and prance around and talk loudly. And, you know, in Animal Kingdom, what do they call it? They call it, he is posturing. And this went on for hours. You know, I don't know if you've ever had meals European style. I had some guy down in Bavaria take me to, I'm going to take you to a real Italian meal. This is down by the Black Forest. I go, great. Takes us to this restaurant. It's like 5 o'clock. At 1 in the morning, I'm like, hey, man. Hey, Jack, can we get the fuck out of here? He goes, oh, entspannen, entspannen. In German, it means uncock, relax. It's like there was, you know, how many courses of meals, and there was dessert, and there was after dinner drinks, and there was, but hey, you know what? I like, he goes, oh, you're too American. Oh, fuck that. I like eating as much as anybody else, but I'm not 7 hours. I got shit to do. I got shit to do. So Hitler is hours, prancing, mincing, you know, posturing, and the woman is not interested. And she gets embarrassed. The handlers get embarrassed. Pretty soon, everybody is embarrassed. Heedless of this embarrassment, Hitler continues until the evening ends. She scoots off, never to be seen again. I don't mean he disappeared her. I mean that she chose, shaking her head, you imagine, chose not to return to the company of the fearless leader. You see what I'm saying? Everybody understood what was going on except for Hitler. Hitler had no understanding of what was going on. And you wonder, how could this guy who was unremarkable in every single aspect, you know, secure the overridingly the willingness to believe from an entire nation? Well, first of all, he told them stuff they wanted to hear. Secondarily, you know, just like America hates a winner, I don't care about a little hoo-ha about, oh, we really hate winners. We prefer complex losers over accomplished winners any day. That's why we got the president we got. Because everybody said he would lose. We really want the underdog. We love this thing. And I'm not confusing Germany and America. But there's a human willingness and desire to believe. We just want to believe. What can make that little ant feel like he can move a rubber tree plant? Because everybody knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant. Well, you know what? He's got high hopes, like the song goes. So we hope, I hope, we hope, no, I hope, you and I hope, and then we hope that a guy who was no version of Aryan manhood would suddenly, through the sheer force of will, achieve some version of Aryan manhood. But he wasn't going to make him taller. And it wasn't going to make him smarter. It wasn't going to make him better with women. It wasn't going to cure Goebbels' foot. It wasn't going to make Goering thin. And it wasn't going to de-Jewify Heydrich. You understand what I'm coming from, where I'm coming from. Yeah, we're going to talk about UFC 209 after. Right now, we're talking about, this is a deep examination of the deep mist. If you don't like it, you can leave now. Because apropos of this lead-in was, I want to read something to you. And I'm sure many of you have probably read it already. And I'm just going to read it without editorializing, except maybe visually. So those of you who are listening on iTunes, I'll give you some visual audio cue. Quote, I think for me, it's time to come back now because I'm 35 years old. I just finished a training camp that I did to see if I could come back to the world-class level. And I feel at the best shape of my life, St. Pierre said in a recent video posted by his sponsors at Hayabusa, which is Japanese for, are you fucking high? I feel better than I've ever been. I feel that George St. Pierre now would be the George St. Pierre that was the greatest of all time that used to compete. So I can't wait to get back in and show people, including myself, to test my skill and see how everything goes. Okay, visual cue for those listening on iTunes is me squinting my eyes, pursing my lips, and making the universal sign of somebody jacking off. Which is typically, if you have the eyes to see, when you are entering the misty climes of the Lost Battalion, well, it's like, you know, it's like when Russell Crowe, you know, when either Mussolini marches on Rome or Russell Crowe in Gladiator returns to Rome, a conquering hero, and they line the streets and they throw petals out. Yes, moth to the flame, deep in the mist. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Poor guy. They never learn. They never fucking learn. BJ, can we go back a few weeks with BJ Penn? Quote, when I get in that cage, it's going to be like an amateur versus a professional. You're goddamn right. That's what it was like. I don't know what side of the equation you thought you were going to be on, but this is the mistake that, oh, you look, Hal Linden said it best. Good man, no, oh, actually it was Clint Eastwood who said to Hal Linden, Good man knows his limitations. Albert Speer had a theory of ruin. He said they want to build buildings in Nazi Germany that looked like the Roman buildings built in ancient Rome, that looked as good in decline as they did the day they were built. You don't have to be the best 20-year-old. You just have to be the best wherever you are. I would have almost bought into what he said. Let's go back, Zapruder-like. Let's go back to what he said. And I'll show you where he has that Joy Division moment, also known as made a fatal mistake, like I did once before. Okay, I think for me, it's time to come back now. Nothing wrong with that. Nobody squinting their eyes or pursing their lips. It's time to come back now. Great. But you have a stinking sensation what's coming is going to come. I think it's time to come back now. Sentence structure wise, he then has to explain why it's time to come back. Because I'm 35 years old. We're on very thin ice now. 35 years old, using a casus belli, and the fact that he's old means that he's pressured by the finiteness of time. It's like, I'm going downhill now. I'm not going to be any better tomorrow than I was yesterday, so I better get this shit out of the way. Meanwhile, he's looking at a killer's row of guys who are exactly on the opposite end of that and want nothing more than to send him on Golden Pond. So now if you're pulling for the guy, now you're feeling nervous. And he pulls you back in. He goes, I just finished a training camp that I did to see, okay, I'm okay. He did a training camp because he wanted to learn something about himself. Okay, I'm back. I'm back in safe territory. If I could come back, yeah, that's, you already talked about the come back. I got it. To the world-class level. Okay, now I'm just pursing the lips. I'm not squinting the eyes. Because he already said come back, so you got the comeback. And this is more positive than the 35-year-old thing. He just wants to get to a place where he had been. I got it. And then, gaboosh, you're next to the woodpile. And I feel at the best shape of my life. You know what? Every old guy says that. Just because you're smarter doesn't mean you're better. We live in a country that's a living testament to that. Guys that shouldn't be fucking holding my jock have yachts. I have to tell myself that lie that just because they're smarter doesn't mean they're better. Because just having a yacht doesn't make you better. Yeah. Save that for your priest. So now you're down. It's cold, and you kind of pat yourself down. You see the wood pile. You see the axe next to it. Figure it belongs to Chris. He's just wandered off for a bit. I feel that George St. Pierre now. This is George St. Pierre talking, right? I got it. He's gotten at that rarefied air of guys who are about to get fucked up and are referring to themselves as the third breath. I feel that George St. Pierre now would beat the George St. Pierre that was the greatest of all of the time that used to compete. Nah, man. Nah, bro. Now, if you look around you, you know what you see? If you were GSP and you had the eyes to see, you would see people pursing their lips, squinting, and making that jerk. If they're like you, they don't make off the jerk. They don't make with the jerking off sign. They just kind of shift uncomfortably. So I can't wait to get back in there and show people, including myself, to test my skill and see how everything goes. You know what? If you're smart at this point, you Kungalize it. Kungalize it? Eugene, what do you mean Kungalize it? Yeah, Kung Lee was very good at one thing and one thing only, really. He was a demon on picking his fights carefully. That's how I first met him. Somebody said he fights the students or people he can beat. So by the time he made the transition to MMA, he had a master of some incredible record. Somebody could look it up or what it was. But MMA is a real testing ground, and he didn't come in with the same kind of. He didn't leave with the same kind of record he came out with. He left kind of riding this sort of MMA, the MMA union train, which is Lost Battalionized. You see how I segue from one of the guys who was leading people down the road to perdition, and the MMA, also known as Association. So all the guys that were there, they ain't there no more. So it's either, maybe it's Tim Kennedy sitting at a desk and he picks up the phone and, hey, hello? No, it's nobody. And he takes his stapler and he kind of moves the stapler and looks at the coffee cup and kind of switches. I wonder which makes me look cooler. No, I want the coffee cup at hand because that shows that I can put the stapler over here. So GSP is going to come back, huh? He's going to rock the world, huh? You know what they should do? They should, he's maybe a little too smart for this, but they should say, you know what? How about, well, Johnny Hendricks gained the weight and is no longer with it. Did he gain the weight? That's why he ended up against that cat he just robbed. And I don't suppose he's as tearfully and aggressively opposed to the possibility of a super fight with Anderson Silva as he once was. There is talk of him against Conor McGee. That's not a fight. Listen to me now and believe me later. Do not book this fight. Because you're going to have to pay Conor McGregor so much fucking money, not because of the fight itself, but because he's going to have to carry an inordinate amount of weight while George St. Pierre mumbles and stumbles through press conference after press conference. If I'm Conor McGee, I say, this guy could beat me in the cage, but he's not beating me on the hustings. What's the point? Why am I going to break my neck to make him rich? Let him fight some scrub and see how many asses he puts in the seats. Have him fight Bisping. Have him fight Luke Rockhold. Haven't heard much from him lately. Maybe his next fight he'll take seriously after 6, 8, a year, 12 months in the bushes. The juniper bushes by the 7-Eleven. You have the unlimited refills. Hey, didn't you used to be? You used to be? Nah, it's not. So all these cats, listen, I'm telling you, as a guy who's 54, I'm telling you. Now my chronological age is 54. My physical age is probably not 54, but that's only because I'm a lunatic and I'm tricking my body into thinking that it's the 34. But the reality of it is I'm fucking walking, talking mess. I sit still for more than 30 seconds. I can't move. I can function on the mat, but I can't move the rest of the time. You're going to find out. What are you going to find out? You know what you're going to find out? You're going to find out that everything is different. Everything. There is no, you got a few guys who and you got some highlight reel stuff and they put your movie things and, and there's all that. Don't. I'm not saying don't come back. But I'm saying pay attention to where you are in your place in space, Jack. I understand it's hard when you're surrounded by nothing but a cord of wood and mist and the sound of Chris Weidman off in the distance. But you got to. You got to sane the fuck up because even Johnny Boney Joni, you know what some guy, my spy in New Mexico, you know what he's sending me pictures of Johnny Boney Joni. Bearded and pudgy. He calls him Budgie. Beardly. Growing the beard to high. I don't know how he's gonna do it. 230? Easy. What the fuck? You'd be better off going back on the coke. hey, you know, I love Johnny Boney Joni. He's free. They say GSP fighting anybody is going to be one of the biggest fights of 2017. Maybe. There are 3 fights in 2017 that will carry the water for WME. Anything Conor McGee does, Johnny Boney Joni's next 2 fights, which should happen in 2017, and the GSP thing. Who did I leave out? Left out a lot. Somebody didn't know that the acronym LITS. Guys who were in the game, but the WME hasn't figured out how to market them. He's kind of there on the shelf. Hey, why would you pick that box of baking soda over this one? I don't know. Hey, here I am. Hey. A lot of guys with initials. DC, DJ. Figure out how to market these guys. You got the gift of gab, you know, you got your commentating job, but you haven't caught on fire. Maybe you should try that Jerry Rice chicken helmet. I'm just thinking because the DC could go from the chicken. He's a friend of Knuckle Up, so I'm not going to dig too deep on this one. The thing where he's dancing around with the chicken legs. I love the Popeye's chicken, and then the Jerry Rice has got the Popeye chicken thing with the little rotisserie on the mouth for the mouthpiece. I'm not fucking making this up. Like Derek Lewis really said he had the poo-poo to Brian Stan, even though I have to admit, Brian Stan with the farty noises that come out of his mouth, that seems like an appropriate first response. So the kind of bravado brought to the game by a guy like BJ Penn, you can't tell me you like seeing that fight. Time waits for no one. Unless you got some Dorian Gray-esque painting at home or the clock that runs backwards, you got to be very careful. Very, very careful. Especially since GSP doesn't guarantee the huge bucks at this point. Sorry, it's a reality that Conor McGee does. Nobody's talking about a GSP fight in Mayweather. Nobody's talking about the 10, 15, $20 million man without laughing. Nobody's talking about a red panty night for GSP. It's a curiosity. A curiosity born of Randy Couture versus Lyoto Machida. A curiosity born of BJ Penn versus Yair Rodriguez. Notice what guys who come in, like Eddie Murphy, was it Chris Rock? Grand opening, grand closing. Unretired, retired. So you know, so now we are curious. It is a curiosity. We saw how BJ Penn gets. It wasn't even dismantled. He was never even there. That was like me fighting a 70-year-old woman. So GSP is back. People are happy, except for the people who bought in whole. They got Cal Scalak. I told you we get Cal Scalak. I told you. MMA, you're going to get Scalak, and you got Scalak. You didn't listen to me. You didn't listen to me. They're 2 guys. You can look them up. Cal Scalak and Pete Grimakowski. Pete Grimakowski has a yacht. At least one. Cal Scalak does not. Now, GSP, you know, he might, you know, and also, it was inorganic. His return is inorganic. You know why? I don't care what you do for a living. You could be a plumber, be a mechanic, software engineer. You stop doing that thing. I'm going back to wizard speech in Taxi Driver. You stop doing that thing. You know, one man is what he does. You know, one guy makes donuts, one other guy makes bagels, another guy makes, you know, you are what you do. You become this thing that you do. Well, you know, if you're lucky and you have a trade, you got something you can walk away from. I used to be an airplane mechanic, and now I'm retired. I used to be a cop. Now I'm an impossible job. I trained with some of these cops. They're telling me these stories. I was like, how could you possibly give a fuck enough about the human race to get caught up in that shit? Chasing some guy, jumping over Starsky and Hutch like over the hood of a car, breaking your wrist, opening the guy's knapsack, and what has he got in it? a couple of CDs that he stole from a car. You know, and now I got a broken wrist. I'm sure the person whose car was broken into are really going to be happy that they got their fucking Procol Harum CD. Marillion. All right, Marillion. So you got these cats coming back. There's going to be a little. All they really are transitional, and we have coming up UFC 209. And on UFC 209, we've got a card that was forced because of what was felt to be a fairly inconclusive finish, or the draw, one of the first time ever draws between Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Tyron Woodley. And people talk about people talking their way back to fights. Crooked is the way, and wide the road to regret. Well, in this case, crooked might be the way, and wide the road to talk yourself back into a fight. Tyron Woodley effectively did that by saying the UFC doesn't treat his black champs well. The UFC hasn't treated him well. The UFC hasn't given him this. I got you. Hey, wasn't you that guy in that NWA movie? How much did you get paid for that? Well, you know how you know if a guy got paid a lot money or a little bit money? If he speaks in a movie. Now, he might have a good enough agent to get hired on as a principal, an actor, which means he has a speaking role but no lines, which means he gets scale, he gets a lot of money. Otherwise, dude's an extra, and he gets like $162 a day. So this fight is forced. What bolsters this fight is undefeated Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. Ferguson did not want to be looking across from Khabib, and was effectively forced to do so by Conor McGee saying, "You know what? Fuck you guys. I got shit to do." Like try to get 25 mil out of Mayweather. Good luck. Good luck with that MMA stuff. I got a garage full of Rolls Royces, and I'm looking to get some more. You know what's special about? You know why? Conor McGee is, and the law could have changed. I know some of you guys who listen to me in Belfast. Is it still the case that you don't have to pay? There's no income tax in Ireland. I know that's why David Bowie and Mick Jagger and all these cats, Pete Townsend, would maintain homes in Ireland, in Dublin, so they could claim, hey, I'm a Dublin resident. That could be why he is as rich as he is. But this fight is full of stuff that, like, if you're Sean Shelby, also known as Keith, you can get yourself a cumulative win. It's a weird kind of MMA math. Marquee for the casual looky lose versus the accretion of goodness that comes from the people who are paying attention. And by which I'm saying any one of these fights on their own, you don't give a fuck about. Together, ooh, that's a sweet. That's a nice. Not many. You don't need many. You need 3. You need 3. Why is that number? That number is based on all unwholesome sexual politic from my distant past. Meaning specifically, I remember saying at one point, maybe when I was I don't know, in my 20s, I had figured out this math, and the math was, how many times do you screw somebody you're not serious about screwing? Now, this is on the occasion, a friend of mine had said to me, he said, hey, you know, my ideal form of a relationship is a one-night stand. I go, you're crazy. He goes, no. If 1 is not enough, 1,000 is not too many. How do you know when to stop? I cut my losses. I have sex with the person once. I feel accomplished. I go on my merry way. I don't have to deal with hearing stories about the mother, the brother, the sister, the father, the sad ex-boyfriends, ex-lovers. I don't have the job. I don't have to get in any of that. I get the sex. I don't get the relationship. That's crazy. Because why is that crazy? I go, because you can't, you don't, there's no lasting impression. This is, you know, it's like, you will have nothing. You won't retain anything. He goes, why do I want to retain anything? I go, aha! There's a reason you want to retain that stuff. You know, for later lonely nights. Or if you believe in life after death, maybe heaven or hell is defined by the fact that when you die, you cease to exist within time. You don't exist within space, but you cease to exist for sure within time. So you are outside of time. So when they talk about eternal or eternity, that's what they're talking about. That eternity, forever time. So presuming that your consciousness makes a journey with you, heaven or hell is dictated by you having accumulated cool shit to think about. Now, if you did jackass shit post-death, that's all you have for eternity. In other words, time beyond time, no time. So here's me cutting that guy off in traffic. Yeah, here's me snaking that guy, knifing him in the back, taking his job. It's kind of depressing. You're stuck in hell. Remembrance of unwelcome past. Heaven, if you got lots of good things to remember. So I say, how many times do you have to have sex with somebody to remember enough to last forever? And I've come up with that number, 3. 3. That's why you get 3 fights on the card. You got yourself a card that'll stick. It'll stick with you. So this fictional GSP card, and I can't honestly say that him against anybody, and having a Lost Battalion watch list as proposed by Johohos is a genius idea, because you can say stuff prior to being in the cage that will cause everybody to give you the stink eye, and if you don't see it, oh boy, j'amour. Never want to be that guy. It's like if I start telling you right now, you know what? I think if I save my energy and I really work out, I'm going to go into the Olympics. I'm going to wrestle. I think I could do it. I could be the first man in history to do it. And you'd be like, really, Eugene? Yeah, no shit. I quit my job. I quit my fucking job. I'm about to start my way. I'm on my way. Goddamn right. I'm going in the Olympics. And after that, I'm gonna ride the Kentucky Derby. I'm gonna be the first over 200-pound jockey. No, you can't encourage this kind of stuff. So this fight, the Woodley Thompson 2 fight, in my mind, has got slightly more weight and heft to GSP, because who is GSP gonna fight that you care about? Who? Just from the point of view of work, if I'm Conor McGee, I go, fucking run along. You're yesterday's news. Why are you even here? Who are you? I'm sorry, I don't understand French, Canadian. You know, who was it who said, somebody, it was a Nate Diaz said about somebody. At this point, so you are more likely to remember the context. And he may have been talking about he was talking about Carlos Condit. And he said, if I see you on the street, there's a difference between a guy like BJ Penn and a guy like Carlos Condit. If I see Carlos Condit in the street and call him a fucking pussy, he's not going to do anything. If I see BJ Penn in the street and I call him a pussy, we're going to be fighting. I love that. I love that reduction. I mean, however, I hung around with some tough Russian cat who was a Sambo judo guy. And he said to me, Eugene, you know what? Anybody can say anything they want to me. I don't give a fuck. Say free country, this is wonderful that you got this thing in America, First Amendment. Say whatever you want. But you put your hands on me and I'll tear you to pieces. I got it. So the fact that BJ Penn would throw down in a parking lot, and it's not like the Diaz brothers haven't thrown down. Their KJ Noon's parking lot brawl was great. Or the one in the cage with Gus Johnson. We're on Showtime, fast. Shut the fuck up, Gus. Carlos Condit his response would have been in line with how he fights. No percentage in that. No percentage of me fighting in the parking lot. Nobody's paying for it. They're paying for free? Nah. I had these friends who used to run this porn company, and one of the things they used to do is bring women in for auditions. And I mean, from their point of view, I'm investing $5,000 in making this video, and the video involves sexual activity. You come in $50, you do an audition. You're lucky to get that. So the guy who was a producer says to the woman there, and he says, "Okay, put the penis in your mouth, do it." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Okay, have you never had a penis in your mouth?" And the greatest line ever was, "Yeah, but not for free." Yeah, I got that audience. So he said, "Okay, you have an honorarium. I'll give you the $50," which he never paid. That was dirty pool, I thought. But anyway. So who is GSP gonna fight that you give a crap about? McG is McG is in sausage in the plate land. He's in sausage in the plate land. I got 50 million sausages on my plate. Why am I going to give you even a single one? Run along. Come back and show me how many that you've got more on your plate than just missed, and then we can talk. Until then, as far as I'm concerned, you're a non-factor. You're like Tom Cruise, like just some guy who used to do good shit. So this fight, UFC 209, has got more heft, and that's why we're going to do the briefest preview, because, of course, later on this week, Tuesday night, I think we're going to do If I Did It, and then Wednesday morning, we're going to do Care or Don't Care preview. So, and usually on Care or Don't Care, I make my picks. Tyrone Woodley, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, delicate. Because this is not about who wins or loses the fight. Not at all. Some of these guys have realized it. I'd like to say Wonderboy is one of the guys who realized it, that the stakes are too high. The stakes are very high. The stakes are extremely high. We're not talking about winning or losing the fight. Everybody realizes that what happens in the cage is marketing for what happens outside. Now, I haven't found Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to be all that engaging, but, they made Chuck Norris a star. If you look at Chuck Norris versus Jim Kelly has got charisma up the ass. Chuck Norris has zero charisma. Maybe Jim Kelly was an asshole, but sometimes in Hollywood, being an asshole means you know what your worth is. You got to know when you've been robbed. You've heard me tell that story about that guy, Joe, who I used to know was writing the screenplay with Robert Rodriguez. Was it Richard? I don't remember. The guy propped down in propaganda films, the one who did From Dusk Till Dawn and Grindhouse and things with Tarantino. Went from giving his script to dude, oh yeah, so let me make a few changes, and then eventually through one or two editing iterations, it came back as written by, because hey, my name's not even on it. Hey man, it's called selling the screenplay. So Wonderboy I don't find him that engaging, but if he's playing the ball the way the ball should be played, he's coming out of his fight, win or lose, with some commercials under his belt, some guest spots. Woodley, I don't know who he's repped by, but, WME owns UFC. And I don't know how he got into Straight Outta Compton. Good for him. The whining got him back into this fight. Easily a more compelling fight for him than anybody else. In that he knows what's happening. Khabib and Tony Ferguson, not a fight that Ferguson wanted to have. A fight that Khabib had with all of his loose talk about going to punish the UFC. Khabib has shut his fucking mouth, probably under the advisement of Javier, who knows what's up. Who knows what's up now that WME owes it. Don't fight yesterday's war today. Stupid people fight yesterday's war today. I was going to malign the South right now because they're still fighting that Civil War thing. But I think that's more about emotional tone and timbre, and certainly not from a Northerner. You don't want to hear that. A Southern man don't need me around anyhow. The saddest, the most pathetic, not pathetic, bathos, not pathos, Rashad Evans versus Daniel Kelly. Who? Daniel Kelly. Who? Daniel Ho. Oh, 12-1 Daniel Kelly. Oh, man, this is heartbreaking. What's going to happen? You know what? Rashad has one thing to do. If he loses to Daniel Kelly, retire. Fucking retire. Right now, you're like the ghost of the ancient mariner. Retire. Help us all help you. The amount of pity you're generating should not be borne by any single one man. But I'm not going to talk about that now. Lando Venata moved from don't care to care against David Tamer, which means a WME pick, baby. And you've suddenly noticed Mark Hunt, after his I'm going to sue, you put me in there against a steroided out Brock Lesnar. How could you do? I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue. I'm going to. Oh, okay. I'm playing ball. What do you think happened to get Mark Hunt to play ball? Nothing the bald one said. Nothing the bald one said. A bird, though, a bird in his ear that said what? WME's in charge now, buddy. How'd you like to star in a movie opposite The Rock? Could happen. You ever see those royalty checks? You should. Alistair Overeem, this guy's got 15 fucking losses on his record. 15. In my mind, that makes him indestructible. He could lose and keep on coming because people like to see him. Is he a WME playboy? No. You know what they say? There's a piece up on Ozzy today about how I got high and crashed the Oscars. A buddy of mine wrote it, right? And he got high and crashed the Oscars. And he said one of the things that really flipped him out as high as he was how short all these celebrities are and how big their fucking heads are physically. I don't know if you've ever met Tito in person. Tito's head was the largest head of any, is the largest human head I've ever been in the presence of. And I've been around guys who are on growth hormone. It was like the size of a fucking garbage can. Those old New York style garbage cans, you know, the tin ones. I don't know how his neck supported it. So I think it's so the camera catches you. However, you get a guy like Overeem who might have a head like that, but the body is so huge, he just looks like a big normal guy who makes everybody on screen look minuscule. So I don't know that he's got any starring roles in him, but it doesn't matter. He's set for life. Guy can go back to Holland and never buy another drink or have to pay rent again. I'm sure he's got several houses doing okay. Marcin Tybura, Polish guy against the Brazilian. You know how I'm going to pick on that one. I'm not going to talk. Uriel Alcantara, there's some good fights. There's some good fights all along the road. We're not going to talk about it now. UFC 209, Woodley versus Thompson. It's in Vegas, so there is that. We don't have to worry about the shaky bakey New York Athletic Commission and their refereeing thing. So there we are. It's a short show. It's a dead week. And I got to go out to dinner. The wife out to dinner. Which means I haven't eaten. I did have something to eat earlier today. It was a mango. And then before that, I had about 3 ounces of cream of wheat. And then I went to jiu-jitsu. And then they tried to kill me. So here I am. So there you go. So there's the breakdown. And you know, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that the Lost Battalion is any place other than like Tuesday. Like, I don't think we should be continually like surprised about Lost Battalion shit, you know? It just seems like it goes with the clock and the calendar. And I'm seeing Chris Weidman all over the place. And he, you know what, the biggest danger is that Chris Weidman kind of goes, hey, you know what? This woodpile's not a bad place to be. I'm getting these guest spots, all the shit. And it's not even like WME is doing it just to buy the silence of guys that they need silenced, who complain about how they weren't treated very well. It's just a different game. They bought a human resource. One of the things when the UFC had a 5-point purchase deal, I could be wrong about something, a 5-point purchase deal with Pride. And apparently, Pride did not have signed contracts with their fighters who were at Pride. So when they figured it out, when they bought the naming rights, when they got the video assets, all the old fights, and they just started snapping up fighters, the fourth and fifth thing to buy the Pride owners out of their fucked up thing with Fujifilm, who backed out because of the Yakuza connection to Pride, they were left holding the bag on parts 4 or 5. In very classic way, make me. You got to understand, I've been paying attention to a prick like Donald Trump for a long time. You know, you got to understand. You know what's right is what you can prove is right. I don't know if you've ever done business with guys like that. But I came from a different section of New York than Trump came from. I come from the section of New York, like when Jam Master Jay tells dude he's not going to pay him, Jam Master Jay gets shot in the fucking head. And the guy who shoots him has to go to jail. But you know, it's like that time I doused the front of that guy's house with gasoline because he hadn't paid me. And he said, I'm not doing business with you anymore. And I go, unless I'm getting paid, we're not doing business. You're robbing me. Guy who shot Jam Master Jay, I'm not sure if he was ever caught or maybe he was. Whatever. He was willing to run the risk. I would rather live in a place where I get 3 meals a day and a comfortable bed, don't have to worry about rent, than getting juked out on the street by a man who's driving a Mercedes-Benz. Nah, son. Nah, that's not the way it's working. You know, the only people who ever told me money is not everything are rich people. I've never had a single broke guy tell me money isn't everything. And you know the only people who I tell that money isn't everything to? My kids. Because I want them in the same way I don't tell them when they were 2 or 3 years old that Santa Claus was bullshit. I neither confirm nor deny the existence of Santa Claus, okay? Because I don't want to lie to my kids. But in regards to money not being everything, you got to square yourself to a possible future where you just don't have it. You're a good person, you're bright, got a decent job, but you don't have a yacht. And that can't be the worst thing in the world. So, UFC 209, is it a must-see? It's a gonna-see. But they did something really dangerous, and they did a WME thing and not necessarily an old UFC thing, putting that Rashad Evans thing so up on the card. And the fact that they can't put it lower on the card shows you what I mean. Lower on the card, it hurts. Higher on the card, it hurts. It hurts no matter where you put it, and that should tell you a lot. I don't say Rashad doesn't come out of this smelling like a rose. He could. It's the willingness to which, the degree to which you're willing to degrade yourself. That's the deal. The willingness, the degree to which you are willing to degrade yourself. That's it from top to bottom, actually. You know, those of us got to get up for work on Monday morning. That's the name of that tune. But at least I'm not sitting there thinking, yeah. I think I'm going to win the Pulitzer Prize this year. And then after I win the Pulitzer Prize with my series on earthworms. And then there's somebody in the background squinting, pursing their lips, and making the universal jerk-off sign because nobody's winning the Pulitzer Prize for writing an article on earthworms. But the deal with the UFC is that Chris Weidman can stay by his fucking woodpile in the mist in the Lost Battalion and still get work. Hollywood's a misty place. Guys make comebacks all the time. John Travolta, one of the most famous, was a punchline on The Simpsons. He was working at an amusement park on The Simpsons, and some kid says, "Mommy, that looks like John Travolta." And the John Travolta is serving popcorn. He goes, "Hey, yeah, looks like." And then Pulp Fiction. No second acts in American Lives are bullshit, buddy. Anyway, that's the show. It's a short show. I got shit to do. UFC 209 preview, a deep examination of the deep mist. Number 275, we're cranking down. You ever think about what's going to happen when we get to Knuckle Up number 251? Reminds me of a song by Fang. The money will roll right in. And the line is, I would have given you some if only you had treated me nice. And you wish that you did, and you'll feel pretty stupid. Anyway, that's the show. We'll see you Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, unless something goes terribly wrong for the If I Did It show. And then Wednesday morning, again, for Care Don't Care preview. If you want to follow more closely, there's a lot of fun to be had at Eugene S. Robinson, but I lock mine because I want to know who's at the party. I lock mine. Or Instagram, Mr. Sleep 3. But if you don't have any photos and you send me the invite, I won't okay you because I think you're a spy. Facebook seems all full up unless you want to follow my author page. And for those special sums of you got my actual phone number. I don't want to give that out very often. You know Oxbow is going to be on tour at the end of April, end of May. Standing offer, any fighter, any fight fan, contact me before, text me. I'll put you on the guest list, VIP. But you got to pass the quiz because I don't want anybody gaming the system. You actually got to know the fight game, not some guy who's half-assing the music who think I'm going to take the quiz because I don't want to pay for the ticket. Fuck that. Anyway, the show is done. I'm finished. We'll see you soon Tuesday. And let's end it with, look what you made me do!